Canon EOS 6D Mark Roman II Review. This is a great choice if you're looking for a reliable all-rounder and a good introduction to full frame. It's good at most things. Great for stationary or slow-moving subjects such as landscapes or portraits, but not so great for capturing fast action. It sits at a reasonable price point for its capabilities, although other full-frame cameras with similar or higher specs are available for similar cost. The original Canon EOS 6D saw the birth of a new breed of cameras, one that introduced beginner, enthusiast, and amateur photographers to the idea of an accessible full-frame system. For those of us who balk at the idea of spending thousands of dollars on pro or semi-pro systems, the 6D offered an affordable alternative and one that drew positive recognition from the industry and the photography community. The Canon EOS 6D MK2 looks to update the original 6D with a far more modern specification list. Although the MK2 is over 5 years old now, it's still a relevant and worthwhile consideration for many of us looking to get more serious about photography. Although, as we'll discuss, there are some compromises to be made. The price alone makes the 6D MK2 an appealing prospect. You expect to pay around $1,000 less than a similar full-frame camera from the next level up, such as the Canon 5D MK Roman IV. As time marches on, the Canon 6D MK2 finds itself sitting in a growingly competitive market. So in this review, we'll see if it still matches up to modern-day demands by reviewing its design, functionality, and image-making abilities. It still sits among our best DSLR cameras and best cameras for astrophotography, especially as the price is relatively competitive. First things first, out of the box, the Canon 6D MK2 is noticeably heavier and bulkier if you're used to a compact or crop sensor body. Although it is weatherproofed, we thought the slightly plastic feel of the body itself was disappointing. But like many Canon products, we were pleased to see well-rounded edges, a good hand grip, and nicely rounded buttons. Overall, ergonomically the camera is easy to use, fits into the hand nicely, and provides easy access to most controls. Canon 6D MK2 looks like any other modern Canon DSLR. This is great if you're used to being a Canon user in terms of familiarity, but there's also enough on-button instruction and symbols to pick up what each does even if you're completely new to Canon. At the rear of the camera, there are buttons to change the autofocus mode, access the camera's menus and settings, and switch it between still and movie modes. As with Canon's other full-frame offerings, there's a dial at the back, which can be controlled using the outer thumb wheel or more conventionally by selecting left, right, up, and down on the direction buttons. It takes a little getting used to, but in shooting mode it comes into its own and allows far greater control of multiple settings at once. There's a start or stop button for movie recording and a Q menu button that allows quick access to important shooting settings. The key element to the rear of the camera is the vari-angle touchscreen, which we found worked well and allowed us to compose our images using more acute angles. It's a little dull when exposed to bright sunlight, but overall the touch responsiveness is excellent and allows a good degree of manual control. At the top of the camera, there's a dedicated screen so you can see what the camera is set to at a glance, as well as a mode control selector on the top left. There's a little button at the top of the selector which needs to be depressed to change the camera's mode, which means it doesn't slip out of your chosen setting accidentally. But one to mention, as it caught us out a couple of times, the selector won't move without the button being depressed. Overall, whilst it is nothing revolutionary, the Canon 6D MK2 design and handling are pleasing and will suit most entry-level full-frame photographers. Using the Canon 6D MK2 is much like using any other Canon product, and comparisons to the crop sensor 80D can't be avoided, as they have almost exactly the same rear panel and feel in the hand. One thing we did notice and enjoy was the speed of operation. Even in light mode, everything turns on, boots up, and is ready to go in an instant, which greatly assists in getting those momentary or easy-to-miss shots. As you'd expect on a full-frame system, the large viewfinder makes it easy to compose shots. Although it does feel bulky, the weight has been nicely trimmed compared to the 5D and it feels like an easy unit to deal with. We tested the system with Canon's 24-105mm lens, which does add considerable weight, but users of 50mm or smaller prime lenses will certainly notice the weight reduction. Dual pixel technology means that the live view works well in most conditions, although we did find it a little hard to see in direct sunlight. It feels good to use and is very responsive though, which twin with its vari-angle articulating ability means shooting from the hip or at strange angles is perfectly doable. Although we thought the dial at the rear of the camera was easy to use, the interdirectional buttons are difficult and sometimes fiddly, and we thought Canon would have been best to do without them and opt for a simpler system like the joystick on its 5D. This is especially relevant if you want to manually adjust focus through the viewfinder, for example. That being said, we thought there was an emerging theme here. Canon has to find a way of differentiating the 6D MK2 as being the lower spec entry-level DSLR. When we got down to business, we liked how the Canon 6D MK2 performed. While it doesn't do anything particularly special that's worth writing home about, we were impressed with its ability to keep up with the demands of the modern shooter. 5 years on from its release, the autofocus is perhaps lacking a little, but in most other respects, it performs well. With its increased megapixel count, faster operation, and generally better handling, the Canon EOS 6D Mk2 is a vast improvement over the aging original 6D and has many things to recommend it. The image quality is excellent, and in the right hands, it is a very capable machine.